Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar with a special guest today, Jamie York. And in this webinar, we are going to speak about sourcing deal analysis for buy-to-let properties. We also will do one example for flip projects. And also it's a chance to hear Jamie's point of view of some best practices about property sourcing, deal analysis, obtaining market data, and also obtaining finance. Of course, we will showcase everything on the Lendlord platform, and so you can also get a live demonstration of the app. If you haven't signed up yet to the platform, so Sarel and Abu from our team are in the chat. They will put the links there. If you have questions during the webinar, just put them on the chat. And then Abu and Sarel will ask the questions. We'll do some stops for questions, but in the end, we'll have session of questions and answers. And so, hi, Jamie, how are you? How was
I am incredible. Thank you for asking. How are you getting on?
Good. Everything is great. We are excited to have you here with us. I think it's a great chance for Lendlord users to meet you and basically get some tips, great tips for source and analyze properties.
I'll try to add some value.
I'm sure you will. Okay, so the agenda for today is as follows. So introduction, I think we'll start with best practices of how to source property deals. Then we'll speak about analysis. Let's see, get into the numbers for the short term and for the long term. Then we will do an exercise for flip analysis. And also we'll speak about market data, obtaining market data, and finance. Eventually, we'll have a session for questions and answers. Okay. Jamie, let's start with sourcing. You know what? Perhaps just in general, if you can share, few tips on when, or what your vision or approach when you need to source properties, and then we can get into the app.
Got you. Okay, no worries. So first of all, I think we need to define what sourcing is in particular, because I think a lot of people say sourcers, packagers, investors, all of that. So if we think about the sourcing part of property, specifically about the finding of properties, and then packaging and things like that is a different definition. So I think the first thing, before even thinking about finding the deal, is actually thinking about the money. And a lot of people jump into property and the most logical thing in their minds to do is start finding the property. But what we all need to understand is not every property is a deal. And in fact, what makes a great property deal is the criteria. And the criteria is defined by the money. And this could be whether you're buying criteria, and I know some of you on here will be buying them yourself, or your investors' criteria. A lot of you will be packaging on the property for other people. And just to check in, by the way, can you put, guys watching this, put invest or packaging in the comments, or both, just so I've got a good idea of what angle people are coming from, and then I can tailor the content. So we've got Mark packaging, hello investing, William investing, Sat packaging, invest, package, invest, both, invest, package, both, invest. Okay, cool. Majority of the people watching are investing, some of you packaging, and a lot of you doing both. So I'll give a bit of an overview, but in order to correctly ascertain and find the right properties, you need to understand your criteria. So for example, if I'm packaging on for an investor where I am attempting to get 8% return on capital deals versus buying my own investments where I'm going to have a lot more stringent criteria, especially if I'm able to purchase cash, that's going to be my number one. And the better you can understand your numbers, the better you will be able to find the deals. And the reason for this is, imagine you're going out there and you're trying to find properties. Now, there's around 26 million residential properties in the UK, and there's around 2 million of those sold every single year, which brings it down to about 170,000 properties every single month getting sold. So if you're looking at properties, you're now looking at 170,000 properties. Whereas if you're looking for property deals, you're probably looking at around 300 deals per month. And that's based on your criteria, your quantitative data, which is going to be your numbers, but also your qualitative, which is going to be your area, the data behind. You're going to want to look at either property data or even better, street check, or even better property data, which if you're on Lendlord and a registered user already, you've actually got access to that for free, because Lendlord extrapolates that data as a paid for source for you. And also some other bits, and I'll go through that data in a moment. So understanding your number is number one. Number two, you need your actual marketing sources. You know, how are you actually going to find these opportunities in the first place? And the best tip I could have with that is, number one, you need a mix of free and paid for marketing sources. And number two, don't rely on one source. So many people do this. Like, you know, the most obvious is estate agents. Estate agents have about 86% of the market, which is great. The issue with that is everyone knows that. And so you are competing with the world, because the world looks on Rightmove. So you have no USP, you have no unique part of your business or service that's approaching that in the right way. So you need other direct routes. So for me, of course, estate agents are there. Facebook ads would be a really big one. And, you know, a lot of you may have seen my ads out there. And the other big one is auctions. Now, auctions come with some downsides, but also a lot of upsides. And, you know, you can use Lendlord for both of these actually to tackle it, because the downside of auctions when you are sourcing is access to reliable capital. And, you know, we'll sort of tackle that in a moment. But I mean, you've got it up now, Avi. And when you're searching for these auction lots, I think what's really bad about Rightmove and everything else is there's no true search function in finding the latest auction opportunities. But what Lendlord does is extrapolates this from the auction houses directly. So actually, even from before they're officially put on the platform, websites work with backlinks as well. And what Lendlord does is it extrapolates this into one place. So as a search function, it's really good because you can do it by price, location, and date. And that date point is really important, because you don't end up missing certain portions of data. And so what you can do is you can search a local auction house and extrapolate from that. Now, this links into what I was saying with tip number one, with searching the money and searching for the finance, because whether you're investing for yourself or indeed you are finding local investors for this, whether you're packaging this on or buying for yourself, I guarantee you will run out of money. And, you know, I say this from a position of making quite a lot of money myself. And I have no problem talking transparently about numbers. I'm an open book with this. I make around, give or take, around $500,000 a month now, which is quite a lot of money, I would say, to invest. And yet I run out of money all the time. Why is that? Because I don't know about you, I am obsessed with investing in property. Pretty obsessed with, as a person in general, I would say. But you run out of money. And this is where having reliable sources. And I'll be honest, I used to only ever buy in auctions with cash. And the reason for that is most bridges are not reliable. And actually, this is where Lendlord comes into your guys' favor, because obviously, you know, the way that Lendlord makes money, and being open about this, isn't by charging you to use the platform, which is definitely an option. And this is how a lot of people do it. You know, you charge upfront for using this service, which, you know, hopefully if you've been using Lendlord, you'd understand, you know, anything between 30 and 50 pound a month would probably be reasonable. Now, Avi and the team have gone for a different way of making money, which is by having more users such as yourselves, and then you using all of their free services, and then ultimately putting everything in one place and using things like their lending platform, which is how they make money. You know, the Lendlord are going to make a margin on every loan that you go out. I think at the moment, you might be able to correct me, Avi, I think we have about 500,000 in lending going through right now with yourselves, and going to be a lot higher.
Yeah. It's even higher right now in terms of yeah, of course. The loan book, the current loan books is higher. The good thing is that we allow our users. So Lendlord, as you mentioned, like, we are first and foremost a tech company. So we provide a platform for property investors to manage their investments, get the right data, put their data in one place, but also get access to finance. And here, basically, we can act as a broker. And when we act as a broker, we can, based on the profile, based on the data that you enter the platform, you can see results from buy-to-let lenders. And here, if you wish, you can apply and start the application with us as a broker, and you will receive a fully online application. You just need to put the relevant details, and you will receive online application. And the second hat that we have is a lender. And there, basically, we provide bridging finance. And in bridging finance, we are the underwriter. And the vision behind that is that we allow our user to use tools that we use as an underwriter. So the deal analyzer that we will show in a sec, the market data that we use currently, property data, but also other sources. And so we want the investor first to make a good deal, to be sure, make sure that he put all the numbers, he understands the potential return, he understands the long-term value. And once the investor confident, of course, we can be more confident as a lender. And everything is basically in one platform. So Jamie, if we go back to the first topic, just to summarize the sourcing. So on Lendlord, by the way, we just launched it this week. This is something new. You spoke about agents. So we just partnered with a company called Property XYZ. And they have tens of thousands of properties that are now listed for sale by agents, with a lot of data about the property. Let's put the price a bit higher. By the way, our user know that if you have a request, the things that you want to improve, just let us know. You can use this chat, and our team, we are trying to respond quite quickly. And then when you enter the property, you can see more details. And if you want to get more information, you can review the property on this site, the website of Property XYZ. Okay, this is an example that this link is not available anymore. But then it's a great way to get more information about properties. And this, by the way, Jimmy, this will be mainly from agents. And of course, we have the auction lots. And here, as you mentioned, we do data web extraction. So we get the data from, you can see in here, like, I think that the vast majority of the auctioneers, the auction houses in the UK, and you can search for specific lots, and you can apply some filters, and then you can also go to the deal analyzer and start to analyze the deal. Yeah, Jamie, what is your preference in terms of like the source of buying the property? Is it auction, agent, or your like something else? If you need to choose one, or like from your experience.
Do you know what, like it depends on access to funding, and again I'll link this back to Lendlord because I think it's really important. without the funding lines readily available, my favorite is Facebook ads. And the reason for that is I'm an active, obviously I buy a lot of property myself. I package deals on to people. I package on about 30 properties a month. And so I'm very aggressive on getting direct to vendor and negotiating the best deals that I can. So Facebook ads is definitely going to be there. My second favorite then linked in with this, and this is where the Lendlord finance comes in, is auctions, because your competition in auctions, despite it's still a hard market, don't get me wrong, but it's so much less. And the reason for that is because everyone has this perception of auctions that it's so difficult. But actually, the cool thing about having Lendlord's finance route there is all you need to do is the numbers game. You've got your properties in your location. You can run your analysis using Lendlord. It tells you roughly where it's at. You understand your numbers, your growth points, and everything. And then you just know your limit to it. You can get indicative finance and then the phone for official lending. And then you're able to go through and get that finance in place. And so for me, you kind of got this position where you can have your upper limits with the auction. You've got your information there in one place. You've got your finance route in the same place, and then it's just about how many offers you're putting in to get the properties off the auction house and sold.
Okay. So Jamie, now let's perhaps start to analyze.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Paul is asking if it's possible to add a Scottish auction houses.
Yeah, so we are now in touch with one auction houses in Scotland, and we will start to increase, we'll enhance it and add more, hopefully in the near future. So yes, it's definitely in the plan. And we have one, so we started discussion with one of the auction houses there. We know that it's not yet in our model, but it will be added very soon. Okay, thanks, Abu. Okay, so Jamie, now let's go to the deal analyzer. And we will start with rental analysis. So Jamie, you selected specific property in this address. Something important, once you put the address, then immediately the platform will retrieve some information about the property. You can see the type, the EPC level. Jamie, you can speak about the importance of the EPC level, the area, the size of the property, and some information about the postcode, the average yield and the 5-year growth. This is the average of the property appreciation in this area. This before we start putting the numbers, and then you can enhance it on the postcode information page. So Jamie, let's start analyzing this deal. We will start with the purchase details section. And here we should start with the purchase price and the expected monthly rent. And then of course we can start tweaking the value, because not all the time you buy like in the same value of the property.
Sure. Okay. So to give some context of this deal, this is one that I've actually bought. So I decided to show you a very good deal and show you what's possible. Now, this is direct to vendor. This comes from a Facebook ad. And the person that we bought this property from, I actually bought 3 properties from the same person. This is one of them that we're financing out with Lendlord right now, actually. And this is what I would call a below market value deal. I bought this about 2 months ago, maybe, on the deal. It's important to give the context. And when somebody's selling a property, people always go, why would they sell below market value? Because I'm sure we could all agree that it's been a bloody hot market, right? And a seller's market, which means they can kind of dictate what they want to sell it within reason. But the reason this one was below market value is the person knew they were selling below the market, and they ended up wanting the money to put into a development. So it's not always financial difficulties why somebody sells money. It's more the fact that they were they were willing to take a hit on this, knowing they were going to make hundreds of thousands more with the investment, what they were going to do with money. So understanding the reason why somebody was selling is more important than your negotiation skills from time to time. So you said to talk about the EPC and some bits like that. The EPC is the Energy Performance Certificate. The Energy Performance Certificate is really important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's grading. The current law is if it's below an E, you're going to have, well, it's illegal to let out the property. Okay, so with that in mind, it's going to be near impossible to get a buy-to-let mortgage. In general, if you're a C, you're golden. And the reason why is because they are changing, or it's technically proposed changes to put the minimum EPC, Energy Performance Certificate level, from an E up to a C. Now, this will start with new build properties, and then it will scale back over time. If you've got properties that are E already, I wouldn't panic about it at all. You know, it's going to happen over to E to 2025. David, if you can hear this, would you mind just chucking yourself on mute, bud? Just because there's a bit of background noise there. But it's going to happen by 2025, and these changes are going to come into play with grants more than likely. So the government will be funding quite a lot of them. The only time you really have to worry is if you've got big old Victorian properties. And my gut instinct is they will be exempt from this because of the sheer cost. In general, going from an E to a C will cost a couple of grand. It's just really not that big of a deal. The other thing it does show, though, on an EPC is the square meterage of a property. And the square meterage is really important because it's going to help with your overall valuation. Because just because this is a 3-bed semi-detached property doesn't mean the same another 3-bed semi-detached property on the same road is going to be worth the same. This is 78 square meters. Another one might be 90 square meters, or indeed 60 square meters. And so the value of the property per square meter is really important.
Maybe you want to run like valuation from property data.
Say that again, sorry.
Property.
Say that again, sorry, Avi.
Jamie? So Paul is asking, how do you find these Facebook ads?
Facebook ads. So when I'm saying a Facebook ad, what I'm talking about is putting out an advertisement on Facebook. So when you've got a Facebook page, you can create an ad that then goes in front of the right people. So you can target people. Repossession, for example, you can target on Facebook. You can target probate. You can target relocations, anything like that. So if you think about the reason people sell their property, what their motivation is, you can then target that. Not all the time. You can't target everything, obviously, but Facebook, naturally, their entire business model is having the most data on people. Google has the most data on everyone. Facebook probably has the second most data. And you can target those people and follow them around the internet. If you're on Facebook, you would have seen a lot of different ads. You just might not have realized them. In order to look out, when you're scrolling through your feed, you'll notice some posts have, in a really light gray at the top of them, it will say sponsored. Okay, that is an ad that is targeting you. Just to give you an idea.
Okay, Jamie, so let's try to run a property value estimation using the property data API for this property. I should say, like, it's not 100% accurate, but it should give some indication. So I put the property type, the construction date. Is it what from those 3 options, what you put?
It was, I believe it's 1914 to 2000.
Okay, number of bedrooms?
3.
Bathrooms?
2.
Okay. What is the interior finish quality when you purchase the property? Okay, so when we're doing the exercise, I could purchase it today.
Good.
High, very high?
I'd say high.
High. Okay. Is there outdoor space? Balcony,
garden.
And off-street parking spaces?
For 1.
1. Okay. Let's run. It takes a few seconds. When it comes up with the number 175, Make sense? What do you think?
I think that will be conservative, but I think this is a really good and quite important actually. So this is where you need to do your analysis and understand. So you remember I said quantitative and qualitative. So and it's really good actually, because these softwares that work out the valuation, they should be used as an indication, not an appraisal.
Absolutely. We always say that it's just an indication. It can't be 100% accurate.
Yeah. So I would never use a valuation tool for a flat. Valuation, first of all, just worth saying that, because a flat could be a penthouse flat and 100 different types of flats. So be careful there. But remember when I said it's quantitative, which is the numbers, that's what a computer can do. And then there's your qualitative data. So looking on Street Check, understanding the area. So this particular area, there are 3-bed semi-detached properties with beautiful looking buildings on the outside. Then you've also got 3-bed semi-detached properties around the area that are a lot rougher. So it doesn't shock me that the computer valuation comes back at 175. To tell you the actual valuation on this property is around the 200,000 mark.
Okay. Now, what was, if you can share, what was the purchase price of this property?
150,000.
Okay. And we know, by the way, with our experience, we did something also with you that there are cases that the valuation report. So we as a lender will use an official surveyor in order to get a valuation report of the property. And I think, Jamie, we saw it already twice on properties that the purchase price was X and the actual value was much higher. So it is possible. You need to know how, I believe this is what we want to hear from you, how you can purchase a property in 150 when the value is 200, but I can assure that this is actually the case. So yeah, definitely.
Jamie?
Yes.
James is asking, what about properties with yard space and not garden?
With yard space, well, what's the question? Sorry.
One second, Abu. I think that let's skip the questions like so
to the end.
These questions that related just like for like the analysis. Let's ask them now. Questions that are general. We'll have like time in the end just for questions answers, if that's okay. Sure. Okay.
So we've getting a property below market value because there's a lot of skepticism around below market value. And don't get me wrong, below market value is definitely harder to get today. But the market shifts over time. You know, when it's a seller's market, you've got to do what you can. When it's a buyer's market, you can negotiate a lot harder. In the last recession, for example, I know people that were getting properties 50 pence on the pound. And that time will come again. That doesn't mean don't buy now, because who knows, that recession might be tomorrow. More than likely not. You know, my gut instinct is towards the end of 2026. Personally, I think that, but also I don't care. I don't care if I buy one and then the market crashes. Do you know why? Because I'm not looking to sell the property suddenly. My exit is death. You know, I want to hold these for as long as possible. But you also need to think, like, when you're going in with your mindset, all you're really thinking, you can say, I want to provide a great home for people. And, you know, I love the bricks and mortar. I just call bullshit. I'm not saying you don't care about those things. I'm not saying you don't care about, but you're investing in property because you want to make money. You're on this webinar looking at these numbers because you want to make the right investment decisions. And sure, there's also providing a great home. But somebody that's selling their property isn't you. Most people that are selling their property, they're not thinking, how much money can I get? What return on investment is this investment getting? What can I do with this money that's going to multiply and make me financially free? Most people selling their properties do not have that mindset in play. So the reasons why is often speed and certainty. The only reasons people are selling to me directly is because of speed and certainty. So this actually is somebody that was thinking about numbers. but not from what they're getting for this, because it's not really like, oh, could I sell it for more? It's more they needed their money bloody quickly. And so for me to get it at this price, I completed in, I can't remember the exact same time frame, if I'm honest, but I think it was 8 days, but it might have been 10 days. But we're talking days, not months, you know, just over a week for this purchase. The fastest one I've ever done is I completed on a property in the same day. So I agreed it in the morning, completed in the afternoon. And when you're able to move that quickly and understand numbers quickly, you can make good margins. So either there's a problem with the property that needs fixing, or there's a problem with the person and they need you to fix their problem. And that's how you get the best discounts.
Amazing. Great. Okay, Jamie. So what, like when you purchased property, what was the estimation for the rent in this, for this property?
It's 850, that property.
Okay, 850. So in Lendlord, the deal analyzer, when you put just the purchase price and the monthly rent and the value, you will instantly get the first year metrics and the long-term metrics. And then starting this point, you just need to enhance the data. So you have the stamp duty, and here it depends if it's your first property or it's an additional property. If you think the number is not right, you can, of course, it's editable, you can change the number. Then, Jamie, let's add the refurb costs. So what improvements you had to do, and also what refurbishment costs you think that investors should take into account. On this, by the way, page, you can add specific costs. So if you want just to replace kitchen, you can write it as specific cost and track it here. And then you will have it after that here, all like when you manage your pipeline. So let's speak about this specific property.
Yeah, sure. So two things on this. First of all, with this one, there's very little refurbishment. We're talking about £3,000, and that is literally carpets and a paint. What is really good here, though, guys, if you're using Lendlord to analyze your deals, is add in those itemized costs. It's a bit of a ball ache, but the reason it's so good is at the end, when you eventually add this to, you'll see along the side, there's my portfolio. If you end up buying this, you can track that data, and then you can make a log of what you thought it would be for the kitchen versus what it actually was for the kitchen. And over time, you'll have more accurate data on your own figures. So, you know, if you are permanently undercutting yourself on the kitchen, but over-egging it on the bathroom, you'll get that actual data over time. So really be careful not to go refurbishments £20,000. And that's just a good tip for tracking your data. The more time you take inputting your data, the more value you get out of this piece of
question from Fitness 7373. Dorian recently posted that he had an insane.
Jamie, you can continue now.
Okay. So just making sure that you've got your data right, and the more effort you put into your data, the more you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, especially, by the way, Jamie, in this section of the purchase costs, you need to make sure you put all the relevant costs, like even be more conservative just to make sure that you have enough cash to cover, and then, you know, you can be surprised for the good in the end.
Sure.
So we allow like to add those costs, and as you said, it's a great way after that to see like plan versus actual and see what basically ended up in this purchase. What about closing costs? How much? So you have the legal fees to complete the purchase, the inspection costs, or any other costs.
So your legal fees, I always just put a 1,600 now, and that's because all of mine are in company purchases now. So I've got independent legal advice to factor in and stuff like that. I don't have any inspection costs as such, but the other costs are really going to be based on how you're buying the property. So for example, are you going to need survey fees? Is it going to be a mortgage? Is it going to be anything else? If it's with a mortgage, I'd factor in £750.
Yeah, we see it on the, so there is the mortgage details. We have like, so I know that it was here, by the way, but now we just took the mortgage cost, the mortgage fees
within the loan
here.
details.
So just to allow people that buy just in cash to put the numbers without that. But so let's say for this specific deal, it's like 1,600 for the legal fees. Any other closing costs, or you will put like, if you just analyze, would you put like a buffer?
No, so I usually put my buffers into the refurb. So whenever you're adding in your refurbishment costs, one of the other things is to think about your overall buffer. So I'd usually put around 10% of the overall refurbishment, and this will depend on your experience. You know, if you've never done a refurbishment before and you're doing a £40,000 refurbishment, maybe you want to put a 15% buffer in. You know, because the bigger it is, and by the way, you will screw up for sure, and that's absolutely fine. That's completely normal. You just get better and better and better with time. So don't worry.
Great idea. Perhaps we should add like as a predefined field buffer, 50 or 10%. So it will be a default, and then you can override it. Sure. But yeah, okay. So all in all, we ended up with around 160 in purchase costs. And so basically you purchase the property 150, but you need to put 10 more to complete the purchase. And this is without the loan costs yet, okay? Yeah. Sure. Now, the cash investment versus the loan. So on Lendlord, what we do is like the default is 35% cash, but the cash is from the total purchase cost. It's not the deposit. So it will cover the entire purchase cost, the 35% of the entire purchase cost, and then it will basically give you 31% as a deposit for the loan. And because we're speaking now on rental properties and we don't have BRR analyzer yet, this is a regular mortgage. Okay, so we need to take a look on a regular buy-to-let mortgage. The limit will be 75% loan to value. Jamie, would you take it to 75?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel very, very comfortable with 75. A lot of people, you could get up to 85% loan to value now with buy-to-let mortgages. So that they are, and more of them are becoming available. Personally, I like 75%. I feel very comfortable because a lot of people like leverage as much as possible. Well, I just think that's short-term thinking because the recession will come eventually. And yeah, sure, I think we've got a number of years of growth, but what if it did happen tomorrow? You know, you don't want to over leverage yourself. So 75% is absolutely fine. Then you need to think about, you know, are you buying in a company or as an individual? If you're buying as an individual, it's more of a tax play, dependent on your tax situation. You need to talk to an accountant about that. But you'll also get lower rates on individual loans. So you'll see some twos in there at the top, and then you've got threes.
Yeah, you can, by the way, order by initial rate, monthly payment, fees, also important. So the rate is, so if you take it for this, I think 2 years, this is the default, okay? So for 2 years, you need to take into account the fees because there are lenders that will take 2% and there are lenders that will fixed fees and really depends on the size of the loan. So you need to take it also into account together with the rate. So because of that, we calculate the total cost that includes the interest rate with the fees together. So you can also order by total cost. And then you can see that actually perhaps it's better to take 3.34 rather than 2.99 because the fees are a bit lower. So it's also something that you can take into consideration. You can also look for 5 years and see what results you will get. And as you mentioned, so Jamie, perhaps you can speak about company, but you mentioned that it should be now higher rates. So if you want to search, Lendlord is connected to 27 Tech, so we get live feed from lenders.
Yeah,
they don't see like a huge difference, but because I think that the individual rates went up now, so lenders started to increase rates.
It's countered. So what you've got is the Bank of England base rate has gone up.
Yes.
And so what you'd naturally expect is interest rates to go up. The thing is, though, the availability of company mortgages has gone up as well. at the same time. So this is really important. So typically company mortgage interest rates are higher than individual, but the reason it's higher is actually because of availability of lenders is lower. But as more and more lenders come to the market, more competition's created. So because the demand is going up, but it's not like skyrocketed for company purchases, but the supply of lending has gone up. What you'll understand is over time, the variance or the difference between them isn't that high. But you would expect company, I always put in 3.5% to be really comfortable. And that usually affects all of those fees. So yeah, you've got some lower interest rate ones there, but you've got some fees in there. Whereas if you ended up going, actually, I'm happy to pay 3.5%, those fees would likely come down a bit lower, as you can see with some of them. And it's important when you're looking at lending to think about three things. Number one, the interest rate. Number two, the fees. And number three, the flexibility of the loan. And what I mean by that is, are there any early redemption charges? Say you did want to get one that you refinance out in a year's time, what's going to be the impact there? Most lenders will have a 2-year minimum early redemption charge. So just be aware of that if you are going to finance out. What I personally would do is be looking at 5-year lending right now as well, because interest rates are going up, and you probably want to give yourself some protection rate within that.
Okay, so yeah, see now the 5 years the rates are higher, but as you said, it basically protect your rate for 5 years. Then
Sure.
Okay. So let's select one of the products just for this example. What would you go with, Jamie?
Looking at that, possibly Land Bay. Overall, yeah, maybe that's one there. And the reason why, just before you click it, is your initial thoughts might be, well, the mortgage lender, surely. Well, no, actually, because if you look at the total cost there, it's 23,100. Now, obviously, I'd look into them in a bit more detail. Whereas you think you got Land Bay there, which is 500 quid cheaper, and Land Bay are very aggressive lenders right now. And what I mean by that is they want to get out money. They aggressively are behind on their lending. Now, you might not know that unless you're in the industry, but what it means is they're a lot more amenable. They're not going to suddenly go, nah, I don't want to lend on that anymore. Whereas a mortgage lender, I like them as well. They're very good lenders, but a little bit more stringent. So out of those I'd be going for Land Bay.
Okay, let's select Land Bay. Then you can see that you have now the rate 3.64, the monthly payment and the fees also included in the analysis. So then Lendlord will take into account all of this data when we like in a sec we'll go to the metrics. Now the monthly or the ongoing monthly operation costs, the monthly expenses. So Jamie, I believe that you use managing agent or property manager, letting agent to manage the properties. From your experience, would you do it by yourself, or like I believe that you when you have such a large portfolio would prefer to use a manager?
Yeah. So I mean, typically what you do is most people manage it themselves, then get a management agent, and then when you get big enough, you manage it yourself again. And the reason for this is I don't mean I manage it myself. I mean I'll hire somebody to manage the portfolio. So that's the stage that I'm going into now, is I'm hiring people to manage it. But 100% get a management agent. People go like, oh, I'm saving this. They barely do anything. No, that's because you're getting cocky and nothing's gone wrong yet. Okay. The only people that self-manage and are happy about it, the things where things haven't gone wrong. You wait until a tenant doesn't pay you. There's over 100 pieces of legislation for renting out your property. And you only really find out what that means when you screw it up. A letting agent, a management agent has to know those things. And also, surely your time is worth more than 85 quid a month. Surely. So it's a loss lead. So yeah, for me, it's an investment. Okay, I'm not a property manager, I'm an investor. Okay, and that needs to be your mindset. So yeah, 10% is plenty for that. And I also you know, you've got your insurance, you know, put what you want. But I usually just put full insurance in at 20 quid a month, which
20 a
will,
month?
yeah,
Okay.
£20 a month, because that'll also factor in like boiler insurance and stuff like that,
Okay,
which
yeah, yeah.
I personally just like peace of mind. I like a very set it and forget it personality. And then I put maintenance in at long-term 5%. So 5% on that would be, you know, 42 quid. And yeah, that'll cover you.
Utilities usually be on the tenant, or you would put some.
Yeah, so if it's a HMO, a house of multiple occupancy, you want to factor in utilities. But as it's a buy to let, I don't need to worry about that. The tenant, that's on the tenant, and because this is a freehold property, I own the ground underneath it. And with leasehold, it means you don't own the ground, so you'd have to pay ground rent and service charge. But with this, I don't need to.
Okay, and would you put a buffer for the ongoing costs?
No, no. That's what I put into the maintenance.
Okay, yeah.
And
Okay.
again, that's another good tip. A lot of people put buffers on buffers on buffers, and very quickly and I used to do this, by the way. Or I better factor in another 10% here, another 10% there, and 10% here. Suddenly, your 20% return deal has gone to zero, and so oh, everything's a rubbish investment. You have to understand that sometimes you just have to go. There is a risk with investing. You can't just factor in risk all the way through. You know, because then imagine you going, oh, I've got 100,000 in the bank, I get paid 1% interest, but I need to factor in risk. It's just like, come on, like you get to a point where you're just putting risk of absolutely everything. So yeah, that's the limit of what I would put in.
Okay, and last thing is the long-term assumption. So in our deal analyzer, we will help you understand the first year metric and also the long-term based on the holding period. So here you can define how many years you're planning to keep the property. And then there are four important things. One is the occupancy rate. So here you need to basically assume the vacancy of the property. So if, for instance, if it's 92%, it means like 1 month every year, the property will be with no tenants. The default is 95. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jamie.
Depends on your area, you know, like if you're going for a decent area, and I'll give you my idea of how you want to write these figures down, because it will really help you. So there's something called tenure of property, TENURE. Tenure of property is the makeup of the property. So in the UK, roughly, and this is very roughly, 30% of the properties in England, in the UK, sorry, are owner occupied without a mortgage. There's no debt on it whatsoever. So 30% owner occupied without a mortgage. 30% is owner occupied with debt, so with a mortgage. Around 21% is buy-to-let landlords, private landlords. And around 19% is social housing, give or take. So 30%, 30%, 21 and 19. And so that information means nothing on its own, but it does when you compare your property to it. So let's say my area is in that area, like my property is in a 30, 30, 21, 19 area. What that would mean is I'd probably want to assume 1 month a year is empty. So I'd put it down to that. Now, I happen to know this area is in a bit of a this property is in a bit of a better area. So what would a better area look like? Either the owner occupier number is higher than 60% overall, 30 and 30, 60%. If it's higher than that, that shows there's almost definitely a stronger quality of individual, however you want to grade that, because more people are wanting to buy in the area. It also indicates stronger capital growth over the long term, because owner occupiers are the people that typically pay more. This also has a higher private rental sector, that 21%. What that indicates is that a better quality of tenant in the area, okay, and a higher demand for that. Whereas if you had a higher social housing, which is the 19%, then that indicates a lower quality of tenant. So you'd want to go maybe a bit low. So in general, I use 3 figures. Either in this case, I would use 95% occupancy. If it's average, so the 30, 30, 21, 19, I would use 92%. So shave off those 3%. And if it's a bit of a higher social, I would do 89%. So Raj has asked, where can I find this percentage info? Well, there's 2 ways. You can use Street Check, which is old, by the way, it's 10-year-old data plus, or the best way is property data. The downside of property data is it's going to cost you 20 to 30 pounds a month, or use Lendlord, where you get it for free because Lendlord pays for it a lot more than that each month to have access for you guys. So for the purpose of this, 95%. So that's on the occupancy rates. Capital growth, you can make your own assumptions. So you can either go on 5-year capital growth, which at this point is 4.9%.
This is, by the way, the default that we use, but of course you can change the number.
Yeah, so just so you guys know, long-term UK average is 7.9% a year. This is over obviously a longer period. Property prices in 1950 were about £1,800. The average person that owned a house, their car on the drive was more expensive than the house, to give you an indication of how much it's risen. Land values have been measured since the Doomsday Book in 1086, where you could buy the entirety of the UK for about £70,000. The average price of a property now is over 290,000. Avi, you might want to plug in your Mac, mate. It looks
yeah.
Great minds think alike. So, you know, property prices typically double every 10 years. That doesn't mean it's continuously going to go up forever, every single year. There are ebbs and flows. It goes up and down. Okay. But in general, 7.9%. I think you can comfortably, conservatively say 5%. Okay. So 4.9% is not a bad assumption at all. I like to be risk averse. I would say 5% is absolutely fine on your annual property appreciation. Rental appreciation will depend on the area. Anything below 3 and 8% is pretty typical. This is a fairly solid area, so I'd say 5%. If you don't know how to fully assess your area, a safe assumption is 3%. So let's put 3% on this because these are comfortable assumptions. Annual inflation, I'd leave about 2.5 typically, but I like to round it to 3, which you've put there. At the moment, inflation is obviously significantly higher, but also capital appreciation is about 1% a month. So you need to understand where you're at right now. Either you analyze it on today figures, which I would never do, by the way, because when you're making long-term assumptions, you need to have long-term thinking. So 5% long-term is conservative.
What about the years, Jamie? How many years you would put here?
Well, again, my exit is death, so I'd like to think more than 10 years. But you know, let's see. But you know, for me, anything between 15 and 30 years is reasonable. And what you'll find on this, and this is where real wealth comes in, it's almost hard to believe the compound effect. Your financial freedom and quitting your job and all of that stuff is based on your cash flow. Okay, based on your cash flow. But your wealth, like your true millionaire status, comes from just owning it over the long term. And it's why I say time in the market always beats timing the market. Me timing the market for a recession might make me another 15 grand, but that's not making me a millionaire. Okay, what's making you a millionaire is just owning the property. So this is why I say I don't care if we're at a height of the market or the bottom of the market, I'm still buying. And as long as it cash flows me, that minimum of 8%, I'm more interested in getting a solid property for capital growth. And as you can see by this, already my cash on cash return is 8.08%, which you can see the cash on cash return. Yeah. But you can see, obviously,
perhaps you can just like mention what. So in cash on cash, we mean is we take the cash investment and then on top of that, the net cash flow. That the net cash flow takes into account also the occupancy rate and of course the annual rent appreciation, and this will be taken into account on the long-term metrics. So yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so cash on cash, or what you might call it is return on capital employed, or return on cash employed, ROCE. It's the best equivalent of, this is what I get in the bank, this is what I get on my cash in the property. Okay, and that's what we're looking, and that's your first year, and that's just on the rent. That doesn't factor in the capital growth.
Yeah,
because the long-term capital growth for 20 years is 1,058%, as you can see there, which is insane. And you know, the cool thing is, and this is where I geek out, is that the button that is just pressed there is the holding period breakdown in the top right. And you can see there that in the first year, you've got, well, look at it, the net cash flow there and the operating income, and it just builds up year on year. And then of course you've got your capital growth. So you've got your growth building up there. Of the middle one is your cash flow, and then the next one is the capital growth that comes in, and it just builds and builds. And this is where it gets a bit unbelievable for people, because it's like, hold on, you've got £200,000 property that you're saying that if it doubles net in 10 years, it's going to be worth 400,000, right? And you're like, yeah. And people are like, well, bullshit. And it's like, well, it's only because that's incomprehensible, you know, for people. But if you look at the average, you know, if you grab your phone right now and you go on the calculator and you go back to the 1950s at 1,200, right? And you times that by 2. So then 10 years later, it's worth 3,600, then 7,200. And you keep on pressing equals up to today is 230,000. It's based on what it should be in 2020, right? Now, in 2020, it might be interesting doing this. I'll just Google it now. Average property price in 2020 in the UK was 256,000. So based on the prediction of it doubling every 10 years, it should have been 230,000, but actually it was 256. Okay, so we're actually ahead of where we should be. But bear in mind, between now and 2030, we should have a correction in the market as well. So even though we might actually be above that doubling, it'll also likely come down at some point. But in general, you can expect the 230 grand property in 2020 to be 460,000 in 2030, to be 940,000 in 2040. And you have to bear in mind, because of inflation, the value of money has also gone down a little bit. And it's worth noting that the 800,000.
So Jamie, the inflation will be taken in the IRR. So if I increase the inflation, it will decrease the internal rate of return.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, internal rate of return is quite a complex figure. And most people in property don't use it, but everyone in investment uses it. So you should. It's the real money. It's the real return. And what real means is it takes account of inflation over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it also will take into account the property appreciation over the years, and of course the cash flow that you will generate from this property every year. And yeah, so it's a great metric to take a look when you want to assess the investment for the long term.
It's one of the best, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so yeah, we analyzed the deals. I think, Jamie, you're happy with the numbers. You're going to invest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with 50% a year. You know, I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, so you know, and anything with cash on cash at 8% and anything with an IRR over 10%, I think is a good deal to be considering. And again, these are indicative numbers. They're an indication for you to do further research and make sure you're happy with everything.
Absolutely. I think we are running out of time, but if you, Jamie, you have a few more minutes to continue, and people that want to stay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So let's, so in order to get more information, if we go to the postcode information page, so basically here, what you can see is the 5-year capital growth breakdown over the years. also with some up-to-date data from 2022. From my understanding, it takes it like 12 months back from June 2022. Then you can see the property demand analytics, if it's a seller or a buyer market. In this specific pockets, we couldn't retrieve the data for rental demand, but usually we can. It depends on the property data API. Then you can see some statistics about crime. If you want, you can go like to see like a breakdown and to drill down into the specifics cases. Then very important, the price per square foot, and some data about demographics. So you see like the politics in this postcode, commute method, age distributions, and also schools in the area. So Jamie, like just like to, what like are your thoughts when you analyze a postcode? What are the important things? What are more interesting for you to take a look at, and what you learn out of it?
Yeah, so first of all, what you can pretty much ignore is crime, unless you know it to be a really rough area. The reason I'm saying that is unless you understand the analytics around crime, which I can near guarantee none of you do, you will be terrified, because everywhere, like search your postcode, there is crime. Guarantee you. Usually domestic, by the way, like domestic abuse and stuff like that is one of the most common ones. The demographics important. So I don't want to talk about whether it's right or wrong or anything like that. It's just an objective statement around the numbers. If you have a majority conservative area, it's going to have good capital growth. You can near guarantee that. Of course, you can't guarantee it. But naturally, most conservatives are people making money. Mostly conservatives. That's not everyone that's a conservative. I know a lot of Labour that also make money. This isn't about opinions and judgment. I'm just saying most people, I'm sure we could agree, rightly or wrongly, conservatives are mostly people making money. And most people that are making money are usually more likely to spend money. The other thing that I like looking at is the demographics in terms of the age there. And really what I'm looking for is that sweet spot of 40 to 50. You know, because it's an active age of buying, and that's where most of the earnings made, 40 to 50. It's not my age group. You know, it's not 30-year-olds that are minted in general. Yeah, so 40 to 50 is where people are earning within that. Schools are also a good idea, you know, to have a look at, because you can sort of check them out. You can also, and it might be worth Lendlord looking into this. You can, you've already thought of it. Yep. Ofsted reports. You can actually extrapolate Ofsted reports. And if you've got, I didn't even know you could do that, Avi. That's really good. Yeah. It's a really good indication. If you've got good or excellent Ofsted reports in the area, you're in good luck for some capital growth. And because more and more, it's hard to find good schools, and in schools you have the what's it called when you have to be within a certain area, catchment area, and so if you're in a good or excellent catchment area for schools, you are in luck, and a lot of people will be willing to pay over the odds in order to be there.
Okay. Great review. Okay, so I think that the last topic that we have left is the like actually to flip analysis. Perhaps we can do it like in 2 minutes. It's very similar to the deal analyzer on Lendlord. So you just need to click on the link flip analyzer, and soon we are going to release a new menu, so it will be much easier to navigate. So on the flip analyzer, again, you should start with in an address, you will get some information about the property and about the postcode, the average yield, and in a second you will see the capital growth. Then here what we allow you to do is to put the purchase details like we did in the deal analyzer, and cash investment loan. Here it will be bridging finance, because usually when you flip a property, you need to take bridging or you need to pay in cash. So this will be your bridging terms, and we show how you can also see like actual terms and apply. Then the monthly holding costs for the project, and then the last section with the sale details. So, and now you can take a look on the metrics and the gross profit, the net profit, and based on, so as long as the project is shorter, then the profit will go up, of course. And of course, you can put the sale value here. And if you have any other sale costs, it will take it into account. Jamie, you want to say a few words about the flip analysis and flip deals in general?
No, it's really good. And you know, when you're getting properties, finding flips in this market is harder. You know, like you saw earlier with that analysis that it's a seller's market in this area. What that means is people are able to sell their properties, even with refurbishment needs, close to the overall market value. But there's two ways of you making money with flip. Either it's a straight trade, like the one that we've just gone through, where I've got it at 150, and I don't need to really do anything. I can just put that straight on the market. That's a straight trade. Always use an analyzer, because it's easy to think, oh, I'm buying at 150, selling at 200, I'm making 50 grand, right? No, you're probably making closer to about 35 grand on there, which you'll be able to look at on here if you put in the details. So, you know, you've got 150 grand purchase price, £3,000 on the refurb.
Yeah, here again, by the way, if it's a project, you can put all the costs that you expect, because usually in flip it's also buy to sell deals. You have you need to do heavy refurbishments or light refurbishment, but you have work to do in the property. You need to improve the property usually in order to add value in such a short term.
Absolutely, yeah. Normally on a flip, we'd be sort of putting about 25 grand into in our area. If you're in London, you might be putting 100 grand into.
Sorry, I missed that. Can you repeat, Jamie?
Pardon?
What was the number?
The average property that we do is about 25,000 spent on it.
Oh, okay, and refurbishment. Okay. And you stop doing flip deals, or you prefer now, like to you mentioned earlier that you prefer to keep the property and let it out and generate cash flow?
Yeah, look, I like holding as much as possible, but we all need money, right? And so if there's some deals, so for example, I get a lot of deals in London. If you watch my YouTube, you would have seen the one in High Wycombe that was worth 475, but I got it for 380. The one in Islington that's worth about 500,000, but I got it for about 410. Those ones just aren't going to work as good rentals. And, you know, when I've got the option of like a 4% return now, or sell it and make 100 grand, when then I can invest that 100 grand at 8% plus my original money that I put in, you're probably talking about 300,000-ish on that deal that's come back to me that I can then invest at 8 to 10%. So making 30 grand a year, or do I keep the 200,000 into this deal that I had to put in and get 4% on that? Well, 8 grand a year or 30 grand a year if I invested it. It's an easy one for me personally. So it's all an indication of what you need at the time, because there's some deals that I've sold and I'll be honest, I regret it, but at the time I needed the money. So at the time it was the right decision.
Yeah.
But maybe if I could have had more access to finance that now I do through Lendlord, I possibly would have kept it in the first place. Okay,
so let's just cover the finance side quite quickly. So on Lendlord, you have several places that you can see the finance options, but in the deal analyzer, so let's say that I want to finance this specific deal. I will click on the finance deal button. Then the platform will search the market with first mortgage options. And there, if you click proceed, we'll ask you to provide some details. And then in the end, you will get an online application for a mortgage. Usually and it takes like sometimes like 5 minutes, you will see a mortgage illustration on your account based on the data that you entered. And our team will be in touch with you to get all the documents, submit application. And once you get the mortgage offer, you can review it on your Lendlord account and basically track the entire application process. And for bridging finance, just click on bridge deal. You will see the indicative terms. Click on proceed. We'll ask you several questions, very quick and easy questionnaire. There will be no other paperwork or form that you need to generate. You just need to provide the documents after that. And then you will get the heads of terms. And after the heads of terms, basically, we start the legal process and the surveyor valuation process. And then it really depends on the legal. Cases can be completed. We just complete the case in 14 days. It really depends on the pace of the legal usually. But bridging can be very fast. And this can give you basically access to cash. Your goal and our goal as a lender that you will repay the loan as soon as possible. We charge only 3 months interest rate so if you repay the loan after 4 months, even if the term is for 9 months, then you will need to pay interest rate to adjust for the 4 months. So we will encourage you to repay the loan before the end of the term. And on the flip analyzer, you see that if you finish the project after 4 months, then of course you'll have much lower debt costs and it will increase your profit. Then after you submit, you will receive a fully online application. We'll ask you to upload the documents here. You can see the terms. If you want to add more securities to reduce the rate, you can do it from here. And of course, we have a team in the ground that will be in touch and follow the process with you. Yeah, final words about finance, Jamie.
Property is a game of speed and certainty. And my best advice, and I never used to have this mindset, but I do. And if anyone's been on my YouTube or on my courses, you'll hear me say price is what you pay, value is what you get. The same with finance, speed and certainty. I can guarantee you, well, I know that there are cheaper finance routes than what you can find on Lendlord, but you will not get the deals that I'm talking about without speed and certainty. And that's where I feel really confident with Lendlord. And, you know, I'll be honest, when Avi, we were originally talking about, I use Lendlord Finance, I was like, And the first one that I used, Lendlord, I did not need speed or certainty because they were new to me. It was just like, well, why should I trust them? And it did shock me how good your team are. If anything, it made my team look fucking slow. So you know, it's making us step up our game a bit. So just when you are going for finance, if you are getting deals that really require you to be able to deliver on your promise, make sure you're going with a provider that's going to be able to deliver that certainty end to end.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Jamie. I think we cover all topics. I'm not sure if we have time for questions, but it was great.
I've got 15 minutes. I've got 15 minutes if people want to hit questions.
Yeah. Abu, do we have some questions from? So if you have questions, just put it on the chat. Yeah.
Yes, we've got a few questions. One from Sabrina Davis. So she asked, what tips can you share that can speed up completion?
Okay, so this is going to depend on mortgage versus cash or bridging. So I'll go through for any of them. So first of all, the relationship with the solicitor is so important. Do not, a solicitor more than anything, do not go with price over value. You can get a solicitor, by the way, it's for about £200. Do not go with them. Like, think about this logically. If somebody's charging £200, £300, £400 for conveyancing, how many clients do they need in order to make a profit margin? horrible amounts. I know solicitors that run 200 cases. A good solicitor, if you want to ask them about their caseload, will have up to 80. And that's a tough gig, 80 to provide a great service, but up to 80. If they tell me that they could do 100 at a time, I won't use them. Okay. So number one, what's their volume? How easy is it to communicate? Are these one of these people that like are only email? No, I want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to people. Like this is a people business and communication is key. Number three is if you can allocate these solicitors to the vendor side, that's going to be really good because you want to manage that communication flow. Number four, the vendor, no matter how quick they say they want to move, once they get sent their property information packs and all of that, the average vendor will take 2 weeks to get it filled out. So if you're direct to vendor, get all of those property information forms printed out, go to their house if you're local and fill it in with them and get the ID, etc., and bring that to the solicitor or get it couriered to the solicitor. That will save you about 2 weeks' time. On the finance side, and this is where I say it really depends. First of all, get a good broker. And this is where Lendlord really comes in with the finance part, is they will chase like mad. And I'll be honest, to the point where it's bloody annoying. So you just want to get them off your back. Imagine what they're doing with the solicitors and everyone on their side. And that's great. And the reason Lendlord would do that is they make naff all unless the property goes through, right? Which is good because I want them to get paid. And ultimately, then I'm going to make money when it goes through. So use a good broker like Lendlord within that. But the other reason the mortgage matters is there's something called indemnifying the searches. With mortgage lending, you cannot indemnify searches. Searches are like the local searches. They take ages sometimes. Indemnifying is the easy way to think of indemnity is insurance against. So it's an insurance that you pay for that covers you on anything you would have found through the searches. Cash, you can do it. Bridging, you can almost always do it. Mortgages, you can't do that. So if you need to buy it cash and you need to complete in a day or a week or less than a month, you're going to need to indemnify the searches almost definitely. So yeah. The final tip I would say is, whilst it's good to chase people, don't chase too much, because every time you're on the phone to the solicitor, you're actually stopping them do their job in the first place. So, you know, calling once every 3 or 4 days, twice a week, you know, and then set milestones. So I'm going to call you on Thursday. What should we expect to have happened by then? Can we make sure this is done? Great. I'm going to check in with you on Thursday to make sure that has happened. If it hasn't happened, is it fair that I give you a little bit of a dig and just say, hey, we need to keep to completion times? They will give you agreement. You can then have a pop at them if they're not delivering. Don't call them every single day because it'll just piss people off. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Jamie. Ashley is asking, should they be worried about the new removal of Section 21 for buy-to-let?
Yes and no. Yes, if you are a shit landlord and aiming to screw over your tenants. No, if you're only looking to kick out your tenants if they're doing wrong. Okay, so I'm actually going to prepare in a video on this. So I'll let you guys know when it's ready. And maybe, Avi, I can give you the link to the video so you can send it out to guys if you think that'll be valuable. There's a lot of positives for us as good landlords. It will screw a lot of the rogue landlords out, but actually it's not just the removal of that. It's making the rest of it a lot more fair. So Section 8s and things like that, at the moment, you have to go through horrible court proceedings that are so lengthy. And then you've got the charity shelter, which I'm not a big fan of. Not overall, I think they do a lot of good, but they help tenants screw over landlords in a lot of ways, whether you're good or bad, and game the system. So it's not just what's happening with the Section 21. It basically makes it a lot easier that if tenants aren't paying you or trashing your house or anything like that, get them out very quickly. And that's where it's going to help. The reason it's not going to help, and if you're going to sell your property, but you want to get rid of the tenant before selling it, it's about to become a lot easier because of these changes. The only reason it's bad for us is if the tenant is paying on time, you're not looking to move into the property and you're not looking to sell, but for some reason you just want to get the tenant out. That's the only reason it's really not going to help us. Everything else is absolutely fine. So, you know, for example, let's say they're paying £500 a month, but actually the rent should be £800 a month. That is fine. Then you will legally be able to increase it to that or give them their notice to get out, and they won't be able to game the system anymore. So honestly, this is one of those moments where the initial fear mongering is terrifying for us all. I promise you, if you're a good landlord, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. I'm really excited about the changes personally.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
No problem.
Okay, Abu, do we have any other question?
I think Jamie covered pretty much all the questions.
Perfect, amazing. Okay, so so thanks everyone for joining in.
Yeah, sorry guys, by the end.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Yossi from Rightway Property Investment. I would like to promote myself. So by the way, I'm one of Jimmy's mentee. So we're currently opening up another 5 places for investors. If someone looking to invest in a property, I would attach below. I will attach a link below in the comments.
Sure thing.
I
Yeah.
love the shameless plug there. But to be fair, I can give a vote of confidence for Los if he is very good at what he does.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Love that little pitch. Don't all see that as an invitation for you to start pitching. Let have your rap.
It's hard, you know, a lot of people around, so
why not?
Yeah. Thank you, guys. So if you want to invest in a property, find out the link below.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, Jamie, we have your link. I think, Abu, if you can copy paste it, it's I think the first comment on the chat. So if you want to get to know more about what Aspire Property Group offers in terms of training, you should see it in this link. Yeah, Jamie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think, have you put the link in already, guys? Or I'll tell you what, I'll just copy and paste it for everyone that's in, because I think it was hold on, I'll just put it in.
Yeah, I think it's the first comment on the chat, but let's copy it to the, yeah, okay, perfect. 1 second.
I'll tell you what, I'll just put the link in, and it's people can then put it in. But here we go. Here's the long link for everyone: bit.ly /prop webinar June 22. Yeah, the reason I put that link is more for a lot of people on here are mentees and people have educated already. But if you're on here and you want some more education, I'm running a webinar this Saturday and can give you some more details on what it is to do property trading and what we do to a higher level. It's really only for people that want to get active in this, you know, make 10 grand a month doing property. For those of you that are just sort of chilled in a job and just investing on the sideline, it's probably not going to be for you. But if people want to come away, it's completely free. You know, it's going to be it's a 10 a.m. this Saturday. So we're going to be doing that.
Cool. Okay, so thanks again, Jamie, for joining us. It was really great session. So much information. I hope everyone enjoyed, and we will share the recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel. We'll send you also a copy if you want, Jamie, if you want to share, and I will send it over to our user base as well. So thanks everyone. See you in the next webinar. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Aviram, and thank you, Jamie, for coming in.
No problem. I'm glad you got value, guys. See you later.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.